the star of Snow Beast should learn to keep his mouth shut.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
Good evening, Jamie Carruthers. It's me, Sam Russo. You're listening to Final Transmission, the UK's longest-running horror podcast, where we cover one horror movie per week from the dawn of time to the end of time. How the heck, hootenanny and hornswoggle are you doing, Jamie?
Hootenanny is right. It's the new year.
Oh, we're hooting and hollering over here.
Yeah, we're...
Is there fireworks going on around you right now? Can you hear me?
All around me. Fucking... What's his name? Who's the hootenanny man? Jules Holland? He's... playing some ragtime piano next to me. We're having a real New Year razz.
He loves ragtime. I'm actually at a party right now. It's incredibly noisy and very busy. So I just want to let you know if I get dragged off into a corner to do greasy New Year stuff, I am still giving you my full attention.
Yeah, it's weird how you do a podcast and play Spin the Bottle at the same time.
It's incredible. Listen, some of us are born gifted.
Yeah.
Excuse me one moment. I'm back.
That was... fucking horrible.
Yeah, it was. You know what else is fucking horrible?
Go on. Not subscribing to our Patreon. Anyone that hasn't subscribed to our Patreon is fucking horrible. Is that what you're saying?
No. They're probably quite good with money, yes, I would say. Yeah, subscribe to our Patreon. You can watch this as a video. You can see the party going on behind me right now. You can see Jules Holland curled up in the fetal position with a penis in his ear as New Year strikes.
Yeah, with his Cocapelli face tattoo.
Does Jules Holland have a Cocapelli face tattoo?
Isn't a Cocapelli face tattoo when you draw a dick on someone when they're passed out at a party?
Is it?
I think that's what that song is referring to.
That's an AJJ song, correct?
Yes.
Right, okay, I get you. Don't know, just thought it was something I didn't know what it was. Sometimes I'm just content to let things be things I don't know what they are.
Yeah, but that's, I would say, 65% of the podcast? Is me saying stuff and you nodding. 65. And then after we finish recording being like, what is a giallo?
The fuck is a giallo? As far as I'm concerned, it's a yellow Italian film or something like that.
Yeah.
Sepia, something happening, some kind of horror. Who knows? What film are we talking about today? Speaking of classic Italian cinema.
Well, there's nothing Italian about the film that we're watching today, but we are watching Maniac Cop from 1988, directed by William Lustig, his second appearance on the pod.
I assume you saw this in the cinema when it came out. Just walked up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Toddled in.
I don't know when I saw this, Like...
No?
I think it's just one of those films that's always been there.
That's not possible. You must have seen it first
at
some point. Let's dig deep.
You're going to do some like past life regression therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're feeling warm. You're in a forest with Heather Locklear. With Heather? I think you probably saw this during the Great Binge of 2004.
I think it was before that. I think I was probably more like 98, 99.
Wow, okay. That's a long fucking time ago. Do you think you watched it around the same time you saw Maniac, the other William Lustig movie that we've covered on this podcast?
Yeah, I do. I do think it was probably around that time. I think in my sort of post Evil Dead watching, I spent a long time digging through as much Bruce Campbell as I could find, and this is pretty near the top. So I think in terms of like it being accessible and also like Max Campbell. So I think I probably saw this. It's probably my next Bruce Campbell film after the Evil Dead franchise.
That makes sense. Do you think it's weird that William Lustig made a movie called Maniac in 1980 and then a movie called Maniac Cop 8 years later?
Yeah, it's even weirder that he made a movie called Maniac Cop Dongo in 1998. He didn't. That's a lie.
Oh dear. No more dongos.
Dongos for Europe.
Do you, for people who are, obviously we're spoiler free from now up until the break, do you have anything to say to our listeners about Maniac Cop vis-a-vis potentially what it's about, the events of the story, how the movie unfolds in a nutshell.
I can give you a synopsis if you want, but I would first like to say
Yeah, that's what I was barking at.
Bruce Campbell thinks this movie's shit, right?
Yeah.
He hates it. And I have to say to you, Bruce, I've seen some of your other movies. This is gold standard, top of the fucking pile, pinnacle Bruce Campbell entertainment.
What have you imbibed that gives you the distinct impression from the horse's mouth that Bruce Campbell doesn't like this movie?
He said that it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
He said that when he read
That'll do
the
it.
script, he thought it was golden, but when it came out, it was
Yeah.
a piece of crap or something to that effect. And
Yeah.
frankly, Bruce, I know you're listening. On this one, you're wrong.
I remember him mentioning it in If Chins Could Kill, but in no detail, really. A few anecdotes and the fact that he didn't like it, I think it's all you get, really.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Had you seen it before I synopsisize it?
First viewing. This was my first viewing, and it has been on my list since the fucking dark ages. I've had this so high on my list for such a long time, I just never got to it.
Yeah, well, that's what this is for, Sammy.
That's what we're here
That's
for.
what this is all about. Okay, so synopsis of Maniac Cop, directed by William Lustig, written by Larry Cohen from 1988. There is a cop, right? And it won't surprise you to learn he's a maniac. He's out there killing not criminals, but innocent people just going about their business. And you know, that is frankly just not going to fly in New York in the 1980s.
Could have fooled me, but yeah.
Yeah, people are so scared of the police because there's a maniac cop out there killing people that, you know, they are killing the police, and we can't have that. But luckily, there are other police who are good, namely Tom Atkins of Halloween 3 and Night of the Creeps fame. And he is a detective who instantly figures out it's a cop for some reason and is desperately trying to figure out who the maniac cop is. Could it be that the maniac cop is Bruce Campbell? Or is it possible that there's another maniac cop out there causing the big bad trouble? Answers
Pretty good synopsis, bud.
on a postcard or by the end of the credits.
So would you call this, I mean, this sort of lands in the horror landscape because various reasons we'll get into. Obviously, there's some gore elements. There's quite a lot of violence. There's a mystery, which takes it into a slightly different area of the genre.
Yeah, it's worth
There's,
saying that...
quite a lot of action. No spoiler.
Yeah, it's worth saying that this is a month that I've titled JA-NOIR-Y because we're going to be looking at horror films or films that straddle both the horror and the noir genre. And I think that like this does have quite a lot of noir-y stuff to it. I think the mystery is pretty good, but I do think it's horror-y enough in that, no spoilers again, not yet, but taking a bunch of those slasher tropes and applying them to a cop in the daylight is quite interesting to me. And there's a bunch of like quite on the nose slashery tropes. I think there's a sort of Pamela Voorhees, Jason Voorhees relationship. There's the whole visualization of the maniac cop, the titular cop, is very slasher villain, silent, hulking slasher type guy. So I think, I mean, it does bring in a couple of those other genres, but I do think that.
So where's the noir? If we're getting a good deep double dicking of noir and horror, where's the noir?
The noir is all over it. It's a
Yeah.
shaky, dodgy morality type of like narrative. The goodies are bad. People are talking about the cops killing criminals like it's fucking part of their job, which, you know, it probably shouldn't be. I know that they do it quite a lot, but it probably shouldn't be. There's a detective story at the center. There's a mystery. There's loads of like noirish lighting, some really interesting noir type shots. Some of them I want to discuss directly with you later because they're a bit spoilery. It does sort of flop a little bit on the sort of 80s action side, which I think undercuts some of those noir elements. But I do think there's a lot of filmy noir stuff in there.
So you would call this a horror noir?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it a horror noir, but there's enough noir in there for it to pass the JA-NOIR-Y test.
It's a low bar.
It is a low
You're
bar.
in. Does it have cops in it? Yes, you're in. It's noir. Did you, because you considered Old Angel Heart a noir, more of a noir than a horror, right?
I think the Angel Heart follows a noir style plot and brings in horror into that plot, whereas I think this follows a slasher movie plot and dips into noir along the way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah.
I feel like we've probably said enough unspoilery stuff. Do you think we can just get in there and ruin this for people?
Yeah, why don't we take a break, come back, and then tell people to subscribe to the Patreon or whatever.
Yeah, if you want to do that, let's do it.
All right.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Oh, I'm back. Are you back?
Yeah, I think I am back. That's
Back in business. BYOB, bring your own business. What you got for me, Jamie?
I've got a punk rock label with a website that is redscare.net, and you should go to it.
You should. You can also follow them on Instagram at Red Scare Industries. An excellent, superb, wonderful record label full of punk rock gems and nuggets that you can sink your teeth into whenever you feel like it. So get on there, order some shit, and enjoy your life. Red Scare Industries. Viva la Resistance. Moving on. So, Maniac Cop. What are your thoughts?
So,
Fill me in.
I think that this film is way, way, way better than it ever should be.
Do you think it's better than Bruce Campbell thinks it is?
Yeah, I do. I think the star of Snow Beast should learn to keep his mouth shut.
He's never been very good at that, so
No.
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I just think it's genuinely good. There are some ropey moments, ropey decisions, ropey ropes, but on the whole, I think it's really good. But I'm very keen to hear how you felt about it first watch.
Yeah, first watch, I was surprised to find out it was very available. I didn't have to dig for this movie. It was just on a streaming platform.
Yeah.
So I was able to find it. As I said, I was already in love with everything I'd seen about it. The cover is fucking fantastic. The cast is very promising. I even actually knew the composer from other stuff. So when this started, I was pretty much ready. I don't raise my expectations too high because I hate being disappointed, but I was pretty much ready for what I hoped would be an 80s genre classic. And what I was surprised by is that it was not only that, but it was more.
Yeah,
there was so much shit that I like in this film.
It's actually good.
It's really good.
Like, I think, obviously, it's full of social commentary, which, you know, I like, especially if it's about the police being dicks.
Sure.
Murky morality, big fan of that. I don't want to be like, in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes, I've raved about scores quite a lot, but I think the JA-NOIR-Y score on this is like the perfect slasher score.
It's phenomenal. It leaps out at me.
The opening scene where it's
so
just
good.
the Maniac Cop getting dressed slowly.
It's perfect.
The music makes that so terrible. It's a cop putting on a uniform. Why am I fucking caking my Calvin Kleins? Like,
you know what it is? It's the opening menu of the Friday the 13th video game.
Yeah.
They just nicked it from this. It's the best opening credits I've seen in so long. It's so fun. It's so simple. It's so eerie. It sets up so much horrible. It foreshadows the whole movie without really doing anything, just with music and simple visuals. It has pauses.
Yeah.
It has some action and then a complete still frame, which you don't often see. It opens the movie beautifully. The score just fucking gets better and better and better until it just completely crescendos. The score is the big win for me for this movie. It's so perfect.
I think like the opening credits do so much to, if you're not scared of the police already, if you're not like predisposed to think that people with that uniform are inherently abusing their power to do whatever they want, like that opening scene just takes you there anyway. Like it just gets you exactly where you.
It certainly sends that message. It feels, it's sort of drenched in psychopathy. Like it just, it seems kind of compulsive, and it's not just because there's stuff like that in the Dragnet movie.
Yeah,
with Joe Friday and Pep Strebeck, and it's a very different vibe.
yeah, that's true.
It's done here to just ladle on an immediately ominous presence, and it does so perfectly for my money. I like simple stuff like that, and it's really well executed. So as soon as that, those opening credits in the first scene, I was just like, well, this is gonna have to work really hard to fuck up. And occasionally it does. It works really hard to fuck up, but for the most part, I really enjoyed this film because it has. I could do this whole podcast in 10 minutes. It has daytime TV police drama. It has genuine mystery that I find actually compelling. It's well acted, in my opinion. It's got it's got a couple of actors I really like, one actor I love, and the music is superb. I don't really know what else Sam Russo needs in a movie. It's also got some fucking fantastic action scenes. Wallop.
I mean, it really does. All of that is absolutely correct. There are very few missteps, I would say. You mentioned that there's a couple of those for you. Do you know what they were? Do you know what things sort of hoiked you a little bit?
Off the top of my head, I would say I found it a little bit disappointing not to spend more time with Bruce Campbell. I think that character could have been developed a lot more, and it would have been more of a MacGuffin if we'd had more time with him. I think he almost had like a little thread of a subplot that comes and goes a bit too quickly for my taste, and is absent for a while. I think the gore is just very poorly executed for the first third of the movie, and not present or threatening enough to really make you fear the Maniac Cop. It improves, but it's nowhere near the caliber or the level of gore that I wanted in a movie like this. And I would say, broadly speaking, it has some pacing lulls that are chivied along by the fact that you're kind of invested in the mystery, but they're not artfully executed enough for me not to get a little bit bored, if I'm honest. But the rest of the time, it's pretty much romping along. Everything is really visually appealing to me. I do think it's really well shot. It's really well lit. It's striking all those chords that you want in something that's drenched in noir conventions, but is also doing some interesting action stuff, some like relatively high budget but very simple action stuff. And it's still keeping you hooked because you genuinely don't know till the very end what the story is with the Maniac Cop. It's not telegraphed that this is it's not a linear, simple solution to the problem that the cops have. So you're with them in the for the whole ride for the investigation. So all of those little missteps are just made up for by the fact that it's fun and really good looking and very atmospheric. And it's a good New York movie. There's a lot of New York in this that works.
I mean, so this is written by Larry Cohen. This isn't the first Larry Cohen movie we're going to talk about this month. Obviously, right. Larry Cohen is amazing at capturing New York, capturing a high budget feel in a low budget movie. He also wrote, I don't know, fucking Phone Box. If you remember
Phone Booth.
Phone Booth. Sorry, yeah. We're in that's it. It was in America, wasn't it?
Which is a great twisty, turny, psychological, minimalist narrative.
Yeah.
That does everything you just said. Like the story is twisty. It does a huge movie on a nothing budget.
Yeah. Like the main problem with Phone Booth is that it came out 8 years too late.
Too late?
Yeah. Like it
what makes you say that?
Because phone booths were basically irrelevant in
what? So we're never allowed to talk about phone booths?
Well, it wasn't a period piece. It was just like fucking
very romantic.
Sure.
So we're already kind of balls in on this. We've whipped our balls out and thrown them in the basket. It's a good film.
Yeah. You got a question?
I guess we'll call it a day. But where do you go from there, Jamie? I know you love to have a little wheedle and a wiggle. You can't just let good enough be. You can't just enjoy the film.
I mean, I can. I have very little negative to say about this. I love that, like, Robert Zadar, who we don't get enough FaceTime with Robert Zadar in this movie.
Or ever, really.
You do in Tango and Cash and Samurai Cop.
Okay.
But we don't get an awful lot of FaceTime with Robert Zadar here. But I love that he's in a movie with Bruce Campbell. We're in Absolute double chin territory. It's chin on chin violence. I love it.
Yeah, it's Return of the Chins.
Yeah.
Chin
Godzilla.
chin, I say. It's some good chins. I mean, Tom Atkins is no slouch on the chin circuit. It's just when you compare it to those chins, he's dwarfed.
I mean, I think if you put Bruce Campbell next to Robert Z'Dar, he is no longer the chin.
True. Yeah. I mean, maybe that caused some tension on set. Can you imagine? You show up thinking like your main thing is you're a B movie actor. Everyone knows because of your honking great chin, and you get there and you're like, "Fuck, it's this guy, the other B movie actor with the honking chin.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?"
The guy that they call a catcher's mitt with eyes, like.
I've got to work. He's the baddie from Alex Kidd. That's a fist. He's got a wow. That's a reference that only the oldest and the saddest of our listeners are going to be able to get.
Yeah, only the people that couldn't afford.
Wrapped, that's a reference I can make. So
yeah, it's a reference that only people that couldn't afford to buy the other games instead of the ones that came built into the Mega Drive
Master System. Yeah,
Master System. You're right.
Yep. When you used to get to that level where you had to play rock paper scissors with each boss, and it was the fist. That's Robert Z'Dar. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really rate Tom Atkins, both in this role, but in every version of this role he's ever played. And I really enjoy him being basically the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
Because, he's the kind of character actor that we love. He's the kind of facial actor that we love. He's a guy who's easily relegated to supporting cast a lot of the time. But he's pretty top billed on this. And for my money, doesn't really put a foot wrong. I think it's a really strong performance. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's bullshit that he instantly believes that it's a cop committing these crimes. Like...
Why?
Because nobody witnesses it, and he's just like, it must be a cop.
I buy his logic, though. Everyone else is dumb as shit. He's dressed as a cop. It's an Occam's razor. He's dressed as a cop.
But he doesn't know he's dressed as a cop.
Stuff. Does he not at that point?
All he knows is that those two criminals say that she ran to a cop, and they've been arrested for the murder. But he's like, no, it must have been a cop.
Listen, New York cops are famous for believing criminals, okay? I think he built his entire case based on the hearsay of two criminals he caught in the act.
I think his logic is like, these bruises on her neck are too big for it to have been these street hoodlums. So, must have been a cop.
Well, it supports their story.
It does support their story.
Circumstantial evidence, but it does support their story. They're like, look at our hands, they're too small. He's like, oh, good point, must be a cop. I buy it. It's not so ridiculous that I don't buy it. And I think it speaks to the corruption on the force. He readily believes that a cop could be doing this straight out the gate, and the other guys who are more corrupt and give less fucks don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, he still thinks...
And want to cover shit up.
He still thinks that it was cool of Matt Cordell in his previous life to kill criminals. Everyone talks about him like he's a legend. Oh, he was a hero. He was a trigger-happy cop who would kill any criminal he came across. What a legend. We love him.
Old school throwback, getting dirty jobs done.
Bleak.
No, not bleak, because for the movie, you need that. You're allowed to... Jamie, you need to separate reality from fiction when it comes to cops. You're allowed to endorse the trigger-happy, get in there, shoot first, ask questions later cop in the movie. You have to buy into that to be a part of the narrative.
Yeah. So a thing that I didn't remember is that he's not undead in this movie. He becomes undead in the sequels. But I think I just retroactively applied the undeadness to him. I
kind of think he is.
He just didn't die. He just was brain dead, and then he, I guess, got better. But not all the way better.
No, not exactly to the point where he's delivering lines better. But that doesn't explain how you can shoot him in the body and head repeatedly and him just crack on. I think he's undead, dude. I think he's Zombo Cop.
Yeah, I don't... Why? Just sheer force of will, like he didn't want to die. Like, so he didn't...
Yeah, he's that tough of a cop. He literally can't be killed. He would just keep coming back. The ultimate cop. And I fucking buy that. I don't give a shit. Don't pick that apart. It's great fun.
Like, I'm not picking it apart. I'm just trying to... Like, they talk about him like he's not undead, but...
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, they try and explain the fact that he was still alive when he left the... hospital ward of the prison, right?
Yeah.
But then they obviously shoot him repeatedly all over his body and head, and he continues to fight, and then he is impaled. We're in spoilers, good, by the fucking mast or whatever it's called. The what's that thing called? The pole arm, the pointy bit at the front of a yacht, blasts through his chest, and then he's still alive at the end. So I think he's undead. I think it's safe to say.
Well, he's definitely undead at the end. But
yeah, but what changes between him getting speared through the chest and the rest of the movie? He's getting shot in the head and just walking away.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he's wearing a bulletproof head.
That's what they call me, old bulletproof head.
Yeah, it's because you can't fault it, and you can't, that head just keeps on delivering.
I think you say I can't fault your logic about the fucking.
No, I can't fault your head.
Yeah, okay. Listen, the less said about my head, the better. I really enjoy not fucking knowing in movies like this, because what it does is it reduces this like propensity we have to endlessly explain and telegraph meaning and point. In modern movies, I feel like everything has to be made for the dumbest guy in the theater, and also the most ambitious thinker in the world, and it always fails to do both, because obviously. And they also
they go back and they look at like this movie and they think, okay, there was this one character there, maybe he was doing something, and so in the 2018 Maniac Cop, they've got fucking Bonzo Scientist number 8 going, yes, if we look at this one character in the background, we can explain everything. Yeah, horseshit.
But I think some of that might be the pretty singular approach to writing movies like this. You know, so many of these movies were written in a few days, with a little bit of help from some chemical friends.
Bleach.
Just locked in a room, like, fuck, I need to pay my rent. I better write Maniac Cop, And that singular vision breeds simplicity. Whereas in a modern studio system where 300 people have to get their greasy mitts all over a script before it even gets read by the person who might fund it and who then makes a million changes, you've just lost that, that really sort of simple voice that says, this is the story. I don't know if he's undead or not. I wrote it.
Yeah.
Hi. Who cares? Make it. It's fun. I don't need that. I don't need that explained to me, because I think that treats me like an adult.
Yeah, I really enjoy the misdirection of, is Bruce Campbell the Maniac Cop? Particularly like...
Great fun.
Early doors, obviously we learn pretty quickly that he's not, because we see him shagging. Really funny that like his wife walks into the hotel room where he's having sex with a woman. He's like, why did you follow me? Like,
you're cheating on him, on her. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. But like throughout that opening scene with him, like when we're introduced to him and his wife thinks that he might be the Maniac Cop, we only ever see him from the same angle that we've seen the Maniac Cop. And that is absolute Hitchcock, clever, genius, like Orson Welles stuff. There is so much of this movie that I think is either directly referencing or tangentially referencing A Touch of Evil. There's like a shot of somebody running under the pier, and the way that like the light hits them, it's exactly like so much of A Touch of Evil.
Light.
Yeah, it's incredible, and like that's what I think really sells the noir stuff here.
Yeah, for sure, and you're right in that it pushes the noir stuff into a really stylized place where it just sort of becomes horror. Do you know what I mean? Those angles of Bruce Campbell are very ominous.
Yeah.
But they're the hard edge of noir that we love. It does that really well, and I feel like it's quite it's so on the nose. It does feel like daytime detective cop drama TV to me, which is again something I love.
Yeah, so, I wonder if how much of that is it being shot in the 80s on the cheap.
Yeah, for sure. You could montage this with stuff like some later Columbo, The A-Team, Due South, anything like that. You could splice this together and it wouldn't look too out of place in a montage. This is higher quality, I think. This looks a lot nicer. It's a lot cleaner. But yeah, it has the same sort of color palette, tone, feel in terms of like shot choices and the flow of action, the way we're sort of cutting between characters in a very sort of simple daytime TV way that I really enjoy. What that does for me is open my willingness to suspend disbelief and follow mystery, because it's a place as a viewer that I am a lot of the time in stuff that I enjoy. So I 100% bought Bruce Campbell as the Maniac Cop to begin with. I thought Bruce Campbell's in this. He's not been in it much so far, so he must be the Maniac Cop, and we're going to see loads of him soon because it's going to be revealed. Nope. That's clever.
Wrong
I'm not
chin.
saying I'm a fucking genius, but it did what it was supposed to do to me. It put me in the right place for the mystery, right?
Yeah, I think like the way that the mystery unfolds, obviously we learn fairly quickly that it's not Bruce Campbell at the point when he's like arrested and his wife is killed. And like fair dues, he's not remotely bothered about his wife being killed. But
I mean, yeah, we know why, but yeah, sure.
all of it makes him look really guilty. And we know that he's not guilty at that point. He was just having a little illicit side shag. But like his wife collecting the cuttings from the newspaper and stuff like that all makes him look pretty bloody guilty.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's really good. Really clever, I
Brilliant.
think. Like
Yeah.
easy to follow, like entry level detective behavior. But
Yep.
you feel like, oh yeah, we saw that happen and we didn't think that it would come back this way. And like,
Yeah, so we totally believe it. It's simple enough to believe.
Yeah.
You're not second guessing it. And at that point, we're kind of thinking it's the police chief, or at least I am. Were you?
the guy that's William Smith, that guy,
Yeah.
the guy with
Captain
my
Ripley.
voice.
Yeah, he's fucking chaining those cigs. Great voice in this. Superb.
So I
And
love William
shaved head
Smith
as well. I don't think I'd seen him with a shaved head before.
Yeah, like my overarching memory of him is as the cop in Rumblefish.
Oh, yeah, he is in Rumblefish. Bang average westerns.
Yeah, loads of them, Italian
bits.
ones.
Yeah. But I enjoy him. I think he's cool.
There are some,
especially in this.
like, I would say that his role in this is an extended cameo. There are some great cameos in this as well. We get George Buckflower, who we love at the Final Transmission podcast. We get your friend and mine, Sam Raimi.
Big moment. That was lovely. He
Yeah.
does a really great job. That Sam Raimi cameo is, there's no like hamming it up, I don't think. He's not funning. He does it really well.
Yeah. There was an interview that sort of surfaced recently where Sharon Stone, who was in The Quick and the Dead, which Sam Raimi directed, said that he had no loyalty and hasn't spoken to her since she helped his career by being in The Quick and the Dead. And it's like, how insane is it to say that Sam Raimi, the guy who went from making films on Super 8 cameras in Michigan to directing some of the biggest films ever and has put his best mate in every single one of them, has no loyalty. What a fucking horseshit thing to say.
He's world famous for taking his closest knit group of friends
Yeah.
from nothing to stardom. There's no real reason for anyone to know who Ted Raimi is, and yet we talk about him for half an hour every week. Yeah, bad call, Shaz. Bad call. Yeah. Wrongo. Plus, like, what's she fucking worried about? If you say to the average person in the street, who do you know out of these two people, and show them a picture of Sam Raimi and Sharon Stone, I guarantee no one's picking Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I think maybe Sharon Stone in 2024 is maybe not the name that she was. And like,
Nor Sam Raimi.
I think Sam Raimi, I think more people are likely to know, maybe not more people are likely to know Sam Raimi by name,
Yeah.
but like, I think if you showed a picture of both of them, they'd be like, I don't know who either of these people are.
If you showed people, like, remember this movie, and showed them Spider-Man, and then some, like,
Sliver.
Z-list bullshit that Sharon Stone did, yeah, they're probably going to be like, I've seen Spider-Man. I don't know about this Slither stuff, but... Yeah, but I don't think people associate Raimi with Spider-Man. Like, his mainstream stuff, I don't think people don't think, like, wow, who directed this Spider-Man movie, and then look him up and go back in his catalog, really.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Like, obviously he directed the most recent Doctor Strange movie. And guess who had a big fucking extended cameo in that?
Sharon Stone.
Exactly. It was obviously Bruce Campbell, and his hand has been possessed. And that's his thing in the whole movie is like his hand's been possessed. Really, really funny.
let's just do the thing. I obviously love Bruce Campbell. I know you love Bruce Campbell. He obviously hates this movie for a whole bunch of reasons. I speculate that it's because it's not as good as it could be, if we're totally honest. This movie could be the fucking greatest horror movie, 80s horror movie of all time, if it leaned into everything it's trying to do just maybe 15% harder.
I think the opposite, really. I think that Bruce Campbell's character is like underwritten and his dialogue is bad. But I feel like it's only his dialogue that's egregiously bad. Everybody else's is like, it's overwritten in a way that is like, nobody really speaks like this. Nobody really says these things. Nobody really enunciates in this way. Whereas he's just like saying stuff. Because, I mean, obviously he's not a good actor, but he's a good personality. And he's trying to bring the Bruce Campbell personality, particularly like in 1988, which is just only a few years off the back of like Evil Dead 2, before he like goes full Bruce Campbell, I think.
He's also broke and struggling at this point in his career. He's not doing well. He's really fucking fighting and digging for roles. So this was a huge lifeline, and it didn't pan out.
I mean, it did not pan out. He's Bruce Campbell. We're talking about him now because he's Bruce Campbell. So
sure,
like,
but he walked away from it dissatisfied with the experience and hating the product, and that made him jaded, according to If Chins Could Kill, my source. And continued to struggle and have relationship problems and find it really hard to... I think he felt like for a while this was his one shot at being a leading man, and it turned out, A, not to be a leading man role, and B, not to be what he wanted.
I wonder if in the script or in the screenplay or even in like a different edit, he's the leading man. And it turns out that Tom Atkins was so electric that he had to be the leading man because he's... I mean, as leading men go, as leading men go, they don't often die at the start of the third act.
No. Very good point. And also, that is... So, I don't know. We're speculating pretty wildly here, but maybe
that's what we do.
It's just... Yeah, but maybe it's just not the role that he built it up in his mind to be. I don't know. Like you said, all these factors put together, and then you watch the final cut and you're like, fuck, I'm barely in it. I sound ridiculous. I'm not hugely pivotal. I'm useful for the mystery. I'm not really doing much of my Bruce Campbell stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the MacGuffin. And, you know, I'm not even like a romantic lead, or he's underutilized, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think he's underutilized. The character's underwritten. Like, he is, like you say, he's there as a MacGuffin. He's MacGuffin the crime dog. Like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously he's instrumental in that finale. He's the one that or not harpoons, but impales Matt Cordell on the spike, drives him into the pier, into the Hudson.
That's what I mean. He's a strange... So because he's so strange in terms of his placement in the movie, he sort of draws out some of the fundamental problems with the balance of characters in this movie, and who's leading, who's following, who do we root for, who's a MacGuffin, etc., etc. So it's unbalanced in that regard, but it's only unbalanced in the way that good daytime cop TV is. You know, we follow different people for different periods of time. It's ultimately resolved with a main character and a secondary character, really.
Yeah, if you think about like Law and Order, it's
characters. Like...
Obviously, Law and Order starts and it's the cops doing the law part, and then we get to the order part or whatever. Like... That's how that works, right?
Yeah, sure. Just so you know, it's the bowsprit. The bowsprit arm. The front of the boat.
The front of the boat. The thing that would have like the lady with the boobs.
That's different. I think that's got a different name.
Masthead.
Or the masthead
or
something, yeah. Bowsprit.
Bowsprit.
How many movie villains have you seen killed with a bowsprit?
I think maybe more than one.
Yeah. I couldn't think of any at the time.
I can't think of any, but I'm sure I've seen it before. Maybe there's a trauma movie called The Action Hunters, and I'm pretty sure...
Did you enjoy the New York setting in this movie? Obviously, you love this shit.
You know that I love dirty 80s and earlier New York. Like, I wish I could go on a holiday there and get stabbed.
And never come back.
Yeah. Get stabbed in an alleyway, lose all of my traveler's checks, and
Yep.
yeah. But you know, I die happy. I die surrounded
what did
by
you think-
Frank Henenlotter.
What did you think? Two questions. What did you think of the establishing shot of New York in this movie that is grainy and shaky and poorly framed with the director of photography's credit on top of it? It's part of the opening credits. They do this terrible shot and it says director of photography and then the guy's name.
So
Timing.
I rate that shot because they only shot in New York for 3 days of the like overall shoot.
Yeah.
So everything that establishing in New York is basically, I would guess, similar to Maniac, done on the fly, no permits, fucking people waiting in idling cars, ready to drive the director and the DOP away at a second's notice.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we didn't get a shot in this like the amazing shotgun moment in Maniac, but like,
Yeah.
I believe, and maybe wrongly, like maybe they had permits for 3 days or whatever, but I believe that like it was made that quickly and super on that hoof, and I choosing to believe that makes my life better.
Yeah. It adds to the romance, and it sort of justifies some of the borderline unforgivable stuff. Like in that car killing that you're kind of referencing with the smashed windscreen, you can see like squirty bottle blood being squirted on. Like I don't know if you saw that.
Well, so I was referring to the
squirty blood.
the shotgun scene in Maniac, where Disco Boy gets his noggin,
the head explosion. Yeah, Tom Savini. But I mean, like, yeah, its counterpart in this is that car killing, and you can just see you're just squirting it from a little bottle, and that's bad to leave that in. But it's also, I think, like you said, made easier to swallow. Yeah, part of the charm. Yeah, but I really, really do stand by the fact that I think this has such a horribly underwhelming amount of gore in it. How do you feel on that front?
I feel like the gore is completely fine. You know, like I don't
really.
I'm not really here for the gore. Like, if you want a gory Lustig movie, you can go find one. Like they're out there.
But if I want to buy the maniacal side of the Maniac Cop, I want to see him popping eyes out of heads, really. Like, bare minimum, you know? I'm not talking about anything that's, Terrifier level. 80s gore, bright red blood popping out of stupid clay heads. I really wanted more of that. And if it wasn't for the really solid mystery, I would have felt really dicked at the lack of gore, I think. Especially in the early, I don't know, say the first act. There's not an enormous amount to keep gorehounds happy. But then again, it clicks into a different gear, and you're in a slightly different zone. So it's all kind of made okay by that mystery.
I think the fact that we get any gore is maybe the mistake. Is that like
it's more in keeping with the noir side of things to be less gory.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
But then don't have an undead maniac cop. Have a crooked cop who's like, I don't know, can see in the dark or something.
Oh no, it's Carrot Cop.
Carrot Cop. Yeah, dude, give me Carrot Cop. Played by Carrot Top. It's perfect. It writes itself.
Yeah. Okay.
So a couple of key quotes from this movie that I really enjoyed. When he's talking to the reporter, he says, "Make it bigger than AIDS." That's an 80s movie quote for you.
Yeah.
Astonishing. I think my favorite line in the movie is, "You always take a leak with a gun in your hand? That's a good way to blow your balls off." Love that.
That interaction is great, I think. That whole
really good.
Apart from like the obvious setting up of the finale, which is like, oh hey, well, they're demolishing this soon. It's all gonna fall down. It's like, well, I guess we're coming back here for the ending. Yeah.
It's all the cheese dick stuff that I like. Tell me where it's happening, bud. You're a good incidental character with some great dialogue, and you're here to tell me where the finale's happening. Because then I know what I'm getting. I'm hanging in for it. I want to see a fucking pier collapse.
Yeah.
I want to see that. It's good. Give me a little bit of what I want right then and there.
There's some funny dialogue for me, which is like, so I wasn't sure if like all of the reverence to Matt Cordell as when he was alive, or when he was on the force, was meant to be like, oh yeah, all cops are bad. I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's just the side effect of that. but people being like, Tom Atkins' character being like, well, I guess even killers got rights now, huh? When they're talking about, when Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins are talking about Matt Cordell, and he's like, he was a real hero of mine, a real trigger happy type. And Tom Atkins is like, yeah, well, now he kills innocent people.
Yeah.
And it's just like, are we meant to be like, oh yeah, all cops are dicks? Or is it?
I think I don't think the messaging is that anti-cop in this film. I think it's straddling it quite deftly, I think, because there's a great moment where I can't remember who it is, the chief of police or someone is like, well, he's saying like, I want to interview, get me every cop who's jaded, suicidal, overworked, has a record of like beating his wife or whatever, and the guy says, what, you want to interview the whole force? You know, that kind of line is great tongue-in-cheek social critique of an obviously morally bankrupt, corrupt fucking police force. Everyone knows in the late 80s what's going on in the NYPD and the LAPD and police in general, right? It's high profile, newsworthy stuff.
Yeah.
And this pokes fun at it, which is great. I think it's done really well, but it also retains the stuff that we love about the Lethal Weapon movies. Like Lethal Weapon 3 is non-stop, constant police brutality, and we are cheering it on the whole fucking way. You know, when the cop is the main character and is doing the killing of the bad guys, we fucking love that shit.
Yeah.
When it happens in real life, yeah, not so much. So I like it in this movie because it balances those two things that I really enjoy: taking the piss out of the cops and glorifying police brutality. Love both.
Yeah, the duality of Sam Russo is those two things, right?
Nailed it on the head, yeah. I mean, that's a combination I find endlessly entertaining: satire and glorification of police brutality. Yeah, I'm in.
I love that some of the other cops that aren't main characters are fucking awful. One of them at one point is like, I'm calling for backups.
Backups, yeah. The plural. So good.
And then another one is like, I'm calling for a backup.
I just don't know if that's bad writing, bad delivery, or good satire. Do you know what I mean? Like, are we making dumb cops happen here, or are they making them dumb themselves? I don't know. It's good fun either way.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for you, Sam. A big question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Matt Cordell, Robert Z'Dar's character, when we see his face properly for the first time?
Quite bad. Again, in crystal clear 4K HD on a fucking OLED TV, it's horrible.
Yeah.
On a grainy old VHS, it's probably sick as fuck. But that is not good makeup, and it's different under every different light. It's different in almost every scene. It's not consistent enough. I'm not scared at all, even remotely, when they reveal the face. His normal face, just painted a bit grey, would be scarier.
Yeah.
I mean, when we find out about how he's killed and the fact that he's just brutally slashed to bits in the shower in prison, you really expect a grisly visage, and you just get some shitty rubber nonsense. His hand looks cool as hell.
So I wondered which version you watched, if you watched the cut version or the uncut version. And the only way to really know is in that shower scene, there you see a few extra slashes, including the cut on his face in the uncut version.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
So brutal and so violent.
A really brutal puncture on the side as well. Like, that's a good wound.
Like that whole scene is pretty. The Foley is insane, and like the dubbing on it is insane, and it's obviously a choice. I don't quite understand why, but like, it does really make you really focus on what's happening, so you kind of lean in, and then the violence is much more violent as a result. Maybe that's the only reason, but
I think it's very well done. It's a sort of tunnel vision experience in audio. It sort of channels what it must be like to be fucking terrified in that moment, and it does that well. And I think it is a real late 80s action cop movie convention to have one show-stoppingly dark scene of violence to put stark contrast with some of the lightness, and to really make you root for, you know, whoever the protagonist is in opposition to the antagonist who's done that or that's happened to or whatever. So I think that scene really works in isolation. It feels, you know, almost artsy, you know, how it's shot. Pretty clever, pretty brave little spot in the movie there. But in terms of his face, nah. They do a great job of concealing his face throughout the movie for the most part. When he's kicking that door down, it's a bit stuntman, obviously trying to keep his hands in front of his face. But for the rest of it, it's good angles, good lighting. I'd like to have seen a bit more done with that, but I don't know. How much can you hold it against them for having some shitty makeup on a guy's face?
Yeah,
I hate when they just put black stuff on people's teeth and you're supposed to think they're undead. Like, whatever.
yeah. I think Matt Cordell doesn't look very good, and like you say, Robert Zadar has a scary face. Like it's an odd face. We can say that about him now because he's dead. He'll never hear this, but like he's
not going to come after us.
No.
I think he knew. I think his face was probably the first thing and the only thing people want to talk about with him.
Yeah.
Like, check out your mush. Strangely quite a good-looking guy, if you ask me.
I think so too. Like, he sort of ebbed and flowed with it, depending on like where he was in his career. But like, if you think about how he looks and I think maybe it's also tied into how his body was. So like when he was like super hench in like Tango and Cash. Like he was really handsome, but also like imposing and terrifying. Whereas like later in life, when he put on a bit of weight and wasn't quite as muscular, he sort of looked like a man with a big Tweety Bird face. So
his head looks fake.
Yeah,
his whole head looks complete nonsense later in his career. Like it doesn't look real at all, and they missed a real trick to augment that, I think. You've got such an incredible canvas. Make it cool. And they just didn't. It just looks slapped on.
Yeah. Obviously, the payoff of the cut that we see in his face is that his face is cut. So maybe they were like, okay, he'll look like shit when we show his face. But the journey to that, getting to see that face cut, if you watch the uncut version, then maybe that's worth it. I don't know. Because that cut on his face is the most violent thing, or one of the most violent things that happens in the movie.
Yeah, but I just see it as a bit inexcusable. We've seen so many bad movies with shit house budgets do gore better and do better facial prosthetics and make something way scarier with way less. But I just would have liked it to have been better.
You're on record as loving fucking Madball Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th 7, so
absolutely, yeah.
And like that to me is the same flavor of egregious as this is.
I mean, if it is in the same ballpark, then within that ballpark there is a sliding scale of effort and effect, and this just feels no effort, no effect. Whereas at least someone worked really fucking hard on Jason's head in 7, and had a very singular vision for what it should look like and brought it to life.
Yeah.
This is like, fuck, I guess we got to put some crap on him. Got any latex? Yeah, not good.
How did you feel about like the Pamela Voorhees relationship that I mentioned at the beginning? Did you sort of clock that?
I clocked it. I bought it. I loved it. And it added another dimension to the movie when I thought nothing else was going to get added. I didn't think we were going to get another character at that point who was going to be important and fun and cool to it. I mean, so that's Cherie North, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in The Shootist. She's at the end of her career at this point. She's done some fucking cool stuff in westerns again and is old Hollywood. And she delivers a fucking beautiful performance, in my opinion. She brings an excellent kind of hysteria that the movie needs. A lot of people in this movie are a little bit beige.
I think she's the best actor in the movie.
Yeah, I think if you're doing top trumps actor-wise, she takes it easily.
Yeah.
But, maybe she comes in a little bit late for my taste. I like the placement in terms of the mystery, and I can't really fault that because it did keep me going. But I kind of just wanted more.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Like, she doesn't come in that late. It's only about 30 minutes into the movie.
I suppose. It feels like a lot's happened by that point. What about Lorene Landon?
Like, I think she's good. She's not a very good actor, but is cool in this role and like does this sort of B-movie stuff quite nicely. It's a shame that like she didn't have the Bruce Campbell style career.
True, yeah.
And like Bruce
to be honest,
Campbell,
I found it hard to fault her in this. I just thought she lived that role. I was worried in her first appearance. I thought, they're going to counterpoint Bruce Campbell with a blonde bimbo kind of character, and it's going to be shallow one-liners, and it's going to be it's going to be dreary. But it was the total opposite. I thought she really lent into it and treated it as a really serious movie and kind of acted her tits off, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think she is doing the absolute best acting that she can. Bruce Campbell is not.
I don't know. I think he's trying really hard to do a serious act.
But like we've seen Bruce Campbell do a serious act, like quite well. Like I don't know if I would say that he's good in The Evil Dead, but I like him. But if you think about like,
but he's doing something so different.
Yeah, but if you think about like Burn Notice, where he plays like a CIA operative, or like
what year is that?
I don't know, 2008, 2009.
Yeah. So up until this point, has he done a serious role?
Wasn't he on like All My Children or something? Was that around this point, like mid 80s?
Yeah.
Whatever soap he was on.
I think people are gonna criticize his performance in this because it's not Evil Dead-y enough. It's like seeing Jim Carrey dial it back and be a bit deadpan, and then accusing it of being bad as a result. I think he's good in this.
I don't think so. I think his characterization in this is closer to his Evil Dead 2 style performance. I think he only really learned to embrace like the buffoon of his character from Army of Darkness onwards.
Yeah.
And I think that's what ultimately served him well and gave him the longevity of the person that we now know. Like throughout, even like some of the stuff that he was doing in the 90s was pretty bad, pretty like, obviously he did a load of bad movies when he was just like Bruce Campbelling about, but like he was in that fucking Tornado movie. But until like, I guess, I mean, he embraces it in Army of Darkness, and then he like sort of lets it go for a bit, and then only when he like becomes a regular character on Xena Warrior Princess and the other show that was is it Hercules, the show that was like alongside that, like does he really sort of begin to understand, okay, if I'm this character, I can be actually good.
Yeah.
But so I don't think his performance is bad here. I just think he's not fully formed yet. It's like, it's more like, rather than being like, oh, this is a serious performance from Jim Carrey, it's more like Earth Girls Are Easy.
What's that?
Where it's a movie with Jim Carrey in it as an alien before he was famous. Or let's say Once Bitten, or those other sort of early Jim Carrey performances where he's Jim Carrey and you know that he is, and he's doing a bit of that, but he's not quite found the confidence in himself to go full. This is who I am. It doesn't matter if I'm playing a role. Like 90% of this role is Bruce Campbell, is Jim Carrey. Even in a situation where he's like in the Truman Show or whatever, like he's still doing the Jim Carrey thing.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to pin down. But I mean, he's done Evil Dead 2. He's gone full hysteria. He's pushed his overacting to the absolute limit, in my opinion, in Evil Dead 2. Like you said, he hasn't quite explored the goofball stuff to the max yet, but he's done some of it, dancing with the fucking lamp and all that bullshit. And all of that receives, massive fandom. Not exactly rocketing him to superstardom, but he becomes cult hero over it. And then he does this, which is much flatter.
Yeah, but I think the overacting of Evil Dead 2 isn't embracing the buffoon that is Army of Darkness and is Autolycus in Xena and like those characters that go on to be ultimately the character that he plays forever.
Yeah. But he also doesn't, you would expect, what I expected in this, more of that hysteria, because he's put in lots of situations where he could easily do that. He could become that character. And I'm wondering if maybe he had a negative experience with the director telling him to fucking rein it in or something. Because this is a relatively docile performance.
I think it's more that he just didn't know that was the thing that he's pulling out of Evil Dead 2 at that point.
Yeah. I enjoy him in this. I just... There's a part of me that wants to see the version of this that is a splatterfest and has him going nuts. And then there's another part of me that wants to see it more Wolfen and more done as a self-serious movie that isn't afraid to step into noir genre filmmaking more boldly. But That doesn't
Was
detract
it
from it necessarily.
okay, Sam? So my question for you is: do you think the kill that we see through the door, which is when the chief and Richard Roundtree get killed,
Go on.
do you think that's a cool shot that celebrates the sort of noir-y distance that we have to have between the action and us as viewers, or do you think it's a pulled punch to not get to witness what would be the most satisfying kill in the whole movie?
The former. I had to watch that twice because I needed to figure out how I felt about it. I loved it as a shot. I love
Yeah.
that you see the Maniac Cop get punched, absolute full wind up, and not move his head even slightly. I thought
Yeah.
that sets up a lot of what's to come in the next action sequence. I really think it's very deliberate, and I do think it's leaning into that noir stuff. It's a clever shot. Everything that happens from then onwards is really well done. The fact that she's cuffed to a guy who's dead and then has to escape the Maniac Cop while cuffed to a dead cop just sets up some great tension. So I would say borderline flawless, that little scene. I don't, at that point, want to see anyone get gored because I'm so into the noir side of stuff, and we're rapidly ratcheting up a pretty fast moving action sequence. So yeah, I love it exactly how it is. What about you? How do you feel?
I mean, I teeter on the brink there because I do think it's a cool shot. I think like the way it's framed through like the little window, like we're looking at a door with like a little window in it, and we're seeing a kill happen through it. Obviously, it's a similar issue that I've got with a bunch of like, you're the person that doubted this thing forever, and now you're getting killed by the thing that you've doubted.
Yeah.
So like, there's a big chunk of me that wants to watch their faces. They're like, oh shit, it's Matt Cordell. Stab, stab, I'm dead now. So yeah, I teeter on the brink there. I think if it was the other way, I wouldn't be asking this question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, hey, do you think it would be cool if we just sort of saw it through a door? But
Yeah.
what we do get really works.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool, and it feels really, I don't know, there's the level of distance that you have between what's happening on the other side of the door and what you can see and how far away we are. Like, it's not like we're close to the door. It's like there's a good few feet away.
And
so like
there's a comical moment when he gets punched. There's a good juxtaposition of a clever shot that's very noir, that denies you, that teases you, that is also funny, and then tees up some great action. So I think it's really well placed. It was in my big section of my notes was about asking you about that exact same thing.
Well, like I say, I think it's cool, but I wouldn't be mad if the other thing happened. If we got to see Richard Roundtree and William Smith be like, oh no.
Yeah. It does expose a slight flaw in the movie for me, and that's that the Maniac Cop doesn't do enough interesting kills for me in this movie for me to really put it up there as like, I can't call him a slasher villain really for this exact reason. He just pulls out his little knife and then sort of off screen, people get stabbed and fall over. So I'm not hungry to see the kill because I know it's just his dumb little knife and then he's going to leave.
Yeah, though we do get several knife hidden inside a billy club kills. Is that a real thing? Is there a knife inside a billy club?
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of like knives in boot caps and stuff like that. So probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bayonet, really, isn't it? It's a fucking bayonet. It's bad, but it's too one-dimensional for me.
It doesn't make sense to me that he's killing civilians when he's on a revenge mission to get the people that got him. Like, these innocent people in the street, they A, don't matter, B, aren't gonna aid him in his quest to get revenge, C, are gonna make it more difficult because people are gonna be looking for the killer cop that's got a mangled face and weird hands and a huge fucking blade inside his billy club.
See, I think it's actually a pretty masterful plan because, well, how else are you going to lure the cops out to kill them if you don't start killing innocent people? If you start killing criminals, they're just going to be like, thanks, you're doing our job for us. Good work.
Yeah.
Like Batman. He becomes Batman, but he's out there just slaying normal human beings in the middle of the night and the middle of the day.
Worth saying that I think my favorite scene is when the woman is pulled over after and she's listening to the news report about the Maniac Cop.
Yeah.
And the Maniac Cop is approaching her and is approaching her very slowly, and it's shot as if it's the Maniac Cop, and then she blows his fucking head off and it's like some fucking 18-year-old rookie.
Again, a good bit of gore there.
Great bit of gore, but
I mean, you
also
do
just
see
like a
the,
good bit
the,
of like
the blood pack fly off. You see like a square blood pack in the air. It's really bad, but like a good headshot.
yeah, but just a good way of showing how A, people are terrified of the police, and B, people aren't scared to shoot a cop in the face if he gets too close to them.
In New York, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
think it's. I wish the movie was 90% that.
It's a bit more street trash in that moment. It feels more.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, if the whole movie's more like that, sure, we're in Rumpville, USA, and it is a real contender for the greatest 80s movie that could have been, which I guess has to detract from what we actually get in the end, because, if something has that much potential and doesn't deliver, surely it's not that great. But somehow it is. So.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it definitely is. I feel like this movie isn't a romp. What this movie is a good movie with some weird rompy sections.
Yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
a
literally
flomp.
in one point, but like,
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you two things I really like at the end of this movie that I don't think you get enough in 80s cop centric horror movies. Car chase aside, not a car chase guy, care less. But there's a couple of great stunts at the end of this movie, and I really appreciate a good horror movie stunt. So the pier guard that we talked to early on gets hit by the van, and it's a really nice glancing hip shot, and his spin away from that van and the way that he lands is top tier. It's such a good stunt, and it's so simple. And it made me think, holy crap, imagine if there was more of this beautiful, simplistic stunt work that you get in daytime TV in horror movies. Because when the fucking van goes off the pier, the stuntman who's playing Bruce Campbell backflips off the van into the Hudson in slow motion. And it's absolutely superb. It's a perfect stunt. They can only have done that once. And he does a perfect backflip. It's really well shot. It's nicely composed. It's a perfectly executed stunt. And I love that stuff. It was really well placed at the end to kind of really build up to a crescendo that works. Did you enjoy the action sequences at the end? Because I know that's a bit love-hate.
I mean, I definitely did. I liked all of that stunt work because it happened a fair distance away, so you could believe that it's Bruce Campbell.
Sure.
Unlike when Tom Atkins' character is meant to be flying out of a window, and he's got brown hair and like an entirely different build and somebody
like
else's
clothes
face.
And,
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a different person.
Yeah.
It's almost like they hire someone to do the dangerous stuff that the actors can't do in those scenes. It's weird.
You can shoot a stuntman in a way, or make a stuntman look like the actor that they're meant to be in a scene that goes on, or a shot that goes on that long.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, woo, it's like he's falling for like a Hans Gruber amount of time. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of the same. Like, Campbell's backflip, the guy does have like a grey mullet. I did watch it a couple of times.
Did they get the stuntmen wrong way round?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it should have been the other guy. But it's so good. It's such a fun thing to. It's straight out the Fall Guy. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fun.
Yeah, no, I think the action stuff really works for me, and like, I love that we start off in a slasher horror place, we move into a noir place, and we end up in like a 80s action movie, albeit on the cheap, but an 80s action movie place.
Yeah, and there's no real ending. That action sequence happens, the hand comes out the Hudson by the pier, and then credits. Like, there's no like plenary, there's no summary scene, there's no like, well, I'm glad we all got out of that okay. It's just like, we're done. Well, listen, bud, we better start thinking about final thoughts on this bad boy.
All right, why don't we take this opportunity to take a break?
Mm-hmm.
I'll pour myself another whiskey because God knows I need it.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that stumbling sentence just then. And
that stumbling sentence. All right, we'll be right back when Jamie completes rehab.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
Oh, we're back, and it's time to rate Maniac Cop.
Before we rate Maniac Cop, I would just like to say that it's against the law for you to not be following us on our various social media accounts.
Yes, that is a violation of Penal Code Section 216, and you will be bayoneted and thrown into the Hudson if you don't follow us at FT Horror Show on all social media platforms, including the Blue Sky.
Yeah, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram. Wherever you're listening to this, make sure you're following us, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you have automatic downloads turned on. If you're listening on YouTube, I don't know why, but some people do, then, make sure you're subscribed there, leave us a little comment, make sure you rate and review, all of that good stuff. Don't forget, this is available uncut and in video on our Patreon. Just $5 a month.
It's like renting
You
a
get to
VHS.
watch. It's like renting a VHS, except it's really boring. Nothing happens. Two bald guys sit in different rooms.
It's like renting a VHS, but you get to keep it, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's like renting a VHS, but the movie you've rented is My Dinner with Andre, and we're both Andre.
And you don't get to hold anything physical or tactile or experience going to the video shop, which is what it's all about. So patreon.net and enjoy downloading. Have a great life.
Yeah. It's like renting a VHS, except there are two guys that are looking down on you instead of just the one guy in the video shop.
Or gal. It was always a gal at my video shop. Still is.
Really?
Yep.
In TVL All-Star Video?
TVL All-Star Video. Yep, absolutely.
Nice.
Went there just this week. In fact, I've been twice in the last 2 weeks.
Did you pick up anything good?
No,
Scabies?
it's my UPS depot. It's where I go to do my UPS stuff. I still browse.
Okay. Well, we've done the hard sell.
Yep.
Let's go to the hard sell where Bruce Campbell was kept for a period of this movie. Do you want to give us your summing uppy, final thoughty, finishing offy situation?
Yes. I'm going to quickly mention one thing I forgot. The whole setting this finale in the St. Patrick's Day parade and having cops drinking is such a touch because it's real. That's real footage. Love that. My final thoughts are really simple. This is a movie that, despite kind of lacking in a lot of ways, and despite being very easy to turn into something massive and wonderful, still does a great job of keeping you entertained because it does a few things really well and a few things just well enough. It's visually attractive to me. The plot is really fun, and I enjoy basically every second that we're in this version of the New York underworld where a maniac cop is just killing civilians and someone's trying to unriddle and stop it. It's simple, straight to the point, late 80s fun, and it weaves in aspects of lots of genres that I enjoy. So I'm never not going to rate this movie highly in terms of my own personal enjoyment. I'm going to give it a gigantic 6.5 bowsprits out of 10.
Nice. 6.5 is reasonably high.
It's not bad. Like I say, I'll rewatch it. I'll put it up there as a movie I'll definitely rewatch, and I will watch the sequel, even though everyone tells me it sucks, which means there's got to be something in here that is speaking to me on a level that makes me want to revisit, and that's normally a really good thing. Yeah, I just think it's probably going to be a relatively comforting horror movie to watch in the future. Just those thriller aspects, the mystery, the action, and the slasher parts really come together nicely for me in something very comforting and soupy. What about you, Jamie? How are you rating Maniac Cop?
Well, I agree with everything that you said. I do find it sort of visually beautiful. There are some really interesting shots. There's some really cool ideas that are being brought to the screen. I love the way that we are referencing, like I said, Touch of Evil, like those sort of classic noir films with that specific lighting and that specific light and dark effect. I love most of the performances. Tom Atkins is great here. I mean, you said it yourself, this is a good version of that character that he always plays.
Yeah. And an extended version. We get more.
Yeah. But it works for me, so I'm happy with it. We've seen this guy in Night of the Creeps. We've seen this guy in Halloween 3.
Mm-hmm.
To a lesser extent in every other Tom Atkins movie, but especially those two, he's this exact character.
Yeah.
he could say "thrill me" in any one of those movies, and it would make sense.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
sure. Yeah.
The moment where he fake smiles to prove that he's not suicidal in this, I related to that very hard.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you know what I mean?
It's a great little scene. Love that.
I've never seen you smile. We see him smile in the next scene, like a
Yeah.
genuine, nice, actual smile. But
Yeah.
the fake smile he does to prove that he's not suicidal speaks to me at a very emotional level.
Yep, and you gotta love him for that, for pulling that out of the
Yeah.
the old actors toolkit. Very good.
Again, we mentioned some of the cameos. I love them. Especially, I love George Buckflower. I love any movie where George Buckflower shows up as a homeless guy, because he's always a homeless guy. That's
Yeah.
the guy that George Buckflower is. Pretty sure he was really a homeless guy,
Really?
but like his personality was just so big. Maybe like, I don't know if he was still a homeless guy at this point, but he was a homeless guy at one point. Again, the score is amazing. I haven't listened to the score outside of watching the movie, but I'm going to do it because I'm pretty
Can't
sure
find
like one of those like boutique vinyl companies that release soundtracks have released it, maybe on a limited edition situation.
it.
But like,
No way I'm fucking buying it.
if they didn't, I'm pretty sure they did. But if they didn't, they're missing a trick, because you could take any of the music in this, apart from like this one like clattering orchestra falling down the stairs, jazz band meeting them halfway up song that I hate.
Right.
But everything that's like really slashery, all of that really slashery, almost like giallo music is like pitch perfect and would fit in any slasher movie. It would fit in The Burning, it would fit in Black Christmas, it would fit in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Like, it's probably the slasheriest score of any movie in the world.
It's so beautiful. It really is, and it does so much
Yeah.
of the heavy lifting in the early part of the movie. It becomes less of like a character of its own right later on in the movie, but it's superb at the beginning. Love it.
Yeah. I love watching cops die. I don't love watching cops be the heroes of a movie where the cops are also the villains, but that's kind of the whole noir thing, is like
Yeah.
we're in murky territory here. Nobody's really good. Some people are really, really bad. So like some people just sort of look good by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely adore all of the stupid misdirection with Bruce Campbell, and the idea, the really satisfying way that we get to see like characters still believe that he's the killer when Robert Zadar is standing behind them with a fucking ice pick or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great.
Like, I love that. I love watching people get their comeuppance for being wrong.
Get the dumb up.
And that's, yeah. So, I mean, I give this movie 9 slashes across the face out of 14.
Nice. So what? Basically the same rating I gave it in a way.
Yeah. 6.5 out of 10. 9 out of 14. I don't know. I'm not fucking Carol Vorderman.
We're pretty
So-
great at maths, as we've proven
Yeah.
time after time on this podcast.
I'm not Carol Vorderman. I'm not even Rachel Riley.
Don't fucking treat yourself that way, Jamie. You're both of those women and more.
I'm every woman.
You are every woman. The one thing you can say about Jamie Carruthers, he's every woman. Thank you
Yeah.
for listening
One
to
thing-
Final Transmission.
The one thing
wherever
you say
you
with me is
are.
I've finished my whiskey.
Have you had fun, Jamie?
I had fun in the recording. We'll have to see how that comes out in the edit.
Yeah, don't edit all the fun out, whatever you do.
No. Well, if you think this episode isn't fun, go to the Patreon where it's uncut and unedited and see for yourself how unfun it really was.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week for more noir-tinged horror-ish stuff.